Before we get into this episode, I wanted to let you know about our free masterclass that is happening on Sunday, September 22nd, Mastering the Art of Detachment in Dating. Now, this is perfect for you if you are someone who typically tends to get attached too quickly when you meet someone new. You tend to fall into that space of infatuation and being obsessed with this person when you've just met them and you're already marrying yourself off in your mind, and you find yourself starting to plan and direct your choices and decisions around them, making sure you're always available for them. And you're ready to be able to pull back a little bit and detach and come back to your center, yourself, and feel calm and excited again when dating. I don't want you to miss this. This is a free masterclass on Sunday. If you are listening to this after Sunday, the 22nd of September, no worries. It will be available for you on replay. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'm so excited to see you live on the masterclass. All right, let's dive into this juicy episode. Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives, so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Relationship Rehab Podcast for another podcast episode. And I know what you might be thinking. An episode on a Friday? Yes, I am giving you a bonus episode because we are currently focusing on detachment for this week, leading into our masterclass on Sunday about mastering the art of detachment, something that I've really had to practice and implement in my own life, and something that I highly encourage my clients to do so as well. But I just couldn't do this series without telling you about the story, about the time when I became completely infatuated with a local musician when I traveled to Nepal. It's a hell of a story, and I wanted to share it with you. And I shared it over the weekend with a friend as well. And I'm like, I need to come on the podcast and talk about this and be vulnerable and share, because I'm sure a lot of you is going to resonate with what I'm going to talk about today. And a part of why I talk about these stories and these experiences that I go through is that you don't feel alone. And you don't fall into that spiral of shame when you start to see or do see in other people when this happens. We are all human beings. We are all imperfect. And this is just a manifestation, a reaction from the anxious attachment style that we have been programmed with, that we are conditioned with, something that we can change, by the way. But it's a great story. So let's get going. And after the story, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into kind of the exploration that I went through then after the infatuation chapter, if you will, about why I got so infatuated, and sharing a little bit about my findings around that. So that could give you some insight about why you have fallen into your own infatuation relationship, and then how to stop that spiral, how to not get into that pattern of infatuation. So let's start with the definition about what infatuation is. And for me, to put it simply, it is becoming obsessed and preoccupied with someone, with a certain person. And the dictionary defines it as an intense but short-lived passion or admiration for someone. It can leave someone unable to focus on anything except being with that person, and the accompanying romantic feelings, which disrupts day-to-day functioning. And this interruption of functioning is what makes this behavior like an addiction. And I think that is a really great definition of what it is, because that's exactly what my experience was. I couldn't focus on anything except being with this person and about feeling those intense highs that I was feeling when I was around them or when I heard from them. And yeah, it became like an addiction. And so let's get going. Right, I'm going to take you guys back to 2019. And at this time, well, first of all, I had just separated from a long-term relationship and had left a teaching job in Bangkok and had gone full time with my remote work. And this was the first time that I was really leaving a secure, stable environment where I had a full-time job and a partner and a family, a Thai family that was taking care of me. And now I was going into this uncertain but exciting time of my life where I was becoming a digital nomad, working online. And Nepal was my first stop. I've always wanted to go. I had friends there already. I had been before with my partner, but this is my first time on my own. So I already had friends there. I knew the country very well, and it's my most favorite country in the world. Please go there if you can, because it's incredible. The spirituality and the hiking is out of this world. And I have to say, I think it's the best country in the world because of how I felt back in this time as well. Because, like I said, this is like a love addiction. It's like a drug. It's like I was completely high for 6 months while I was in Nepal. So I have very good memories and good experiences, as well as very crashing, intense lows as well. So let me take you back to that time. I had just finished a really grueling but incredible hike where I pushed myself to my limits. I was feeling so high from that, and my friend and I, we went out to the local heavy metal bar. Yeah, surprise, I love my heavy metal, and they have a bar there in Nepal which we love to go, in Kathmandu. Purple Haze. If anybody is going to Kathmandu and wants to visit, it's the most incredible place. So we're there, and next thing I know, I have clocked eyes with one of the musicians on the stage. Gorgeous, gorgeous man. Still is. Beautiful man. Inside and out. And, we lock eyes. He comes down from the stage after his performance. And my friend, she knows this band. She's been living there for years. So we start talking, and he starts paying me attention. And I'm like, oh my God, this fine specimen of a man is paying me attention. He wants to get to know me. He's talking to me. He's just showering me with compliments and conversation. And I'm just starting to become really, really excited about this moment that is happening this night. And as the night goes on, we get to know each other more. We kissed at the end, and that was that. And I woke up the next morning thinking, oh my goodness, I have met the one. This man is incredible. He is amazing. He is all that I could ever want, physically and internally. And, bear in mind, I had just met this guy. This was the morning after, and I'm already putting him on that pedestal. And I know that I just really want to see him again. I knew I needed to see him again. I was not an option to this only being a one-hit wonder. Needed to see him again. So, we're chit-chatting back and forth in text. And he's like, oh yeah, maybe next week we can meet and go on a date. But for me, I'm like, no, that's too far. I can't wait until next week to see you. I need to see you like now, today. I didn't say that to him, obviously, because I wanted to play it cool. So I knew that he was playing at that bar on the Saturday night, and I met him, let's say, on the Thursday. Can't really remember. And I remember asking all my friends, who wants to go out on Saturday? I want to go to Purple Haze. Who's available? No one was available. But I didn't let that stop me. I went to the bar alone. And this was at the time where I was not comfortable doing so. Like now, I would have no qualms going by myself and being very confident in saying that I am by myself. But back then, it was quite shameful, I guess, to go out alone. Like, who does that? Billy no friends. And I was not prepared to be that person. So I pretended that I was coming with friends. And I texted him, I was like, oh, casually, I'm going to be there Saturday night. If you're around, cool. I'm going to be with some friends. If I see you, cool. But my intention was to see him. I needed to make sure that was going to happen. And I remember sitting there being very self-conscious. And I see him. He comes over. He's like, oh, where's your friends? And I'm like, they kind of just stepped outside for a minute, and they're gonna be back. They're gonna be back. It's gonna be fine. And of course, no one ever came back. But he never said anything. I think he knew that I was that was there by myself. But anyway, he went and played, came back towards me at the end of it, and we just hung out for the rest of the night. And we went home together that night, and we slept together. Slept with him very, very quickly after the second time meeting him. And this is another thing that we need to be cautious about when we meet someone new and we start to feel those intense butterflies and excitement and chemicals raging around our body. We want things to happen quickly because we want to move through the process quickly and just have this person in our life. It's everything is directing us to that way. So we sleep with them very quickly. But what happens when we have sex with someone quickly is that those chemicals, that emotional attachment starts to get solidified, because as women, especially anxiously attached women, we attach through sex. Just something to bear in mind. So this was happening in this connection. And as the days went on, it seemed like he was obsessed with me too. And I will share a little bit about what was happening between the dynamic of us both when I unpack why this was happening. But he seemed, at the beginning anyway, to be equally obsessed with me. And what happens when two people are in infatuation mode, phase, is you're kind of bouncing off each other. This person is falling as deeply as I am in love with each other. This must be legit. And because of the media, because of the movies and the music promoting this image, this vision of what true love is, it's just like this love at first sight. Your eyes meet across the dance floor and it must be it. But reality is that's not what true love actually is or feels like. It's infatuation, it's lust, it's all of that stuff. So the next few weeks ahead, we tried to spend as much time together as possible. We were upset, like texting all the time, to the point where I just couldn't focus on anything but when was the next time that I was going to see him, or when was the next time that I was going to be able to be out so I can be around him. I couldn't focus on my work. Like I said, I didn't just start my remote work, but I was very much starting a full-time intention to be a freelancer, and I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care about my work. I didn't care about my friendships. I didn't care about going to the gym. All of that went to one side. All I wanted was to see him. And when I was around him or heard from him, it was like this intense high that I can't even describe or put into words, other than if you have done drugs like MDMA or heroin. I have never done that, but I can only imagine that is what it's like. Everything is just more colorful. Life is just incredible. And you're on top of the world. You're on cloud nine. And there is nothing or no one that can bring you down from that cloud nine apart from that person. So they have already got you in that space of being able to control the way you feel. So when you don't hear from them, with those moments, those times where I didn't hear from him because he's either sleeping in late because he's a musician or he was busy, oh my goodness, like my whole mood and emotions was completely affected and influenced by the amount that I've heard from him or saw him. And there were certain songs, I listen to them now, even now presently, that take me back to that moment. And I remember those feelings, those intense highs, but I also remember those crashing lows that I went through as well. And I think what was also fueling this experience was that he was busy. And so those moments that I saw him, or he did message me, I felt special because he made the time to do it amongst his busy schedule. I felt special. He was choosing me to focus on, and it seemed like he wanted what I wanted at the time. And I started to create a vision of what that looked like. And I started to romanticize the relationship, the connection, I started making plans to stay longer in Nepal. I got a visa extension. I was looking into jobs, which I did have a job, but it wasn't because, well, it was a different thing. It was a project, but I was looking into more long-term jobs. I was looking into doing a master's in Kathmandu just so I could stay longer. I was living in this dreamland fantasy where I'm like, I have found my person. We are going to be together. We're going to live happily ever after. We're going to have kids. I'm going to live in Nepal and everything is going to be just amazing. I was completely romanticizing this. Again, bearing in mind, I had only known this person for a month or two at this point, and I was already putting things in place to live forever in Nepal. So fast forward, we're about months 2, 3, even 4 at this point, where we are just in an absolute whirlwind of chemicals and emotions and ups and downs and highs and lows and intensities between us both. And then I start to realize that he's pulling away. He starts to pull away from the connection. Again, just a lot of excuses about him being busy. He has to go do this, and then there's this festival, and then there's that festival, and he couldn't make the time. He was no longer prioritizing me. But what this did was made me chase. It made me lean in even more, because at that point I was addicted. I was addicted to what I thought was the love that I had for this person. But in looking back, I was addicted to the chemicals that I was feeling in my body that was being instigated by this relationship. And when he pulled away, when I didn't hear from him all day, I was just, oh my God, in such anxiety. I was sick. I felt so sick all the time. I was breaking out in acne. I would shake. I couldn't eat my food. I was completely losing my shit. I was constantly checking my phone. I couldn't rest. I was so irritable and snappy at people, and I again couldn't focus on my work. I lost a lot of clients during this phase. I couldn't even distract myself with TV or walks. My mind was completely preoccupied with this person, and the only thing that I thought back then would calm me down was if I heard from this person. So I would call him, I would text him again, I would call his best friend. Have you heard from him? Where is he? What is he doing? I became this person I didn't recognize that was hunting for connection, for like a smithering, a breadcrumb of validation or connection with this person, just a text message. And yeah, it was a crazy time now looking back. And what was happening was, around month 4, yes, he was pulling back because he was actually coming out of his infatuation phase and started to apply some reality to the situation, right? I'm a Westerner. In a country like Nepal, he is Nepali. He has a whole system that he has to abide by, a caste system, cultural differences, right? He was starting to apply reality to the situation of, maybe this isn't the most compatible dynamic, and maybe we should slow down and actually assess what is going on here, whether we actually work to get together as a couple. And the way that I reacted to that was with anger, actually, because I didn't want to leave that bubble. It felt so good. I became angry with him because he wasn't playing into my vision of who I wanted him to be. He was no longer playing in the game of the relationship that I was trying to cultivate, this dream, this vision that I wanted to come true. And I was starting to lose control over the situation. I knew I needed to do something drastic in order to pull him back, in order to feel those intoxicating highs again, to get those dopamine hits that I was now addicted to, because dopamine is a very addictive chemical that we feel when we meet someone new. And when we're on social media, it's very addictive. I needed my fix. And I was not going to take this lying down. I was not going to accept what he was saying. I needed to take charge. And when we get into this mindset, we start to get into a mindset of manipulation, because we start to get desperate. We are losing this person, this connection that we think is so rare, that we think is the one. We start to get desperate. We start to get manipulative. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was now researching the hell out of things like how to make him obsessed with you, how to get them back, what shall I do, what should I text him, what shall I say. And this is the problem with content like that, is that it kind of feeds into this insanity that we're living in that moment. But we're, again, with so much compassion, we are desperate to win them back. We are desperate to keep the connection that we feel like we're losing. So I started to become very available to him whenever he wanted to see me. And this could just be when, he wanted something from me. I would be there in a hot second. I was there. I kept going to his gigs, even by myself, proving myself to him that I'm so available for him. I am here for him. I want to be able to be everything that he wants me to be, and I will do whatever it takes for that to happen. And I was showing up to his gigs just so I could be around him, because it was unbearable to not be around him. I'm living in hope that he would just change his mind and we can go back into living in that fantasy land that we were in. And because I believe that he was more on the avoidance side, he couldn't really express fully what was happening for him. He couldn't fully express that he did no longer want the connection. So that confusion was also fueling it. I feel like if you're with someone a little bit more secure and they were more assertive with their boundaries and more communicative with what they wanted and needed, maybe I wouldn't have to go through all this crap, right? But it was not like that. It was push pull. He would change his mind and then we would have sex. And then the next day it's back to, nah, this isn't going to work. And he was push and pull in this way as well. So this kept us trapped in that space of infatuation, push-pull, anxious avoidant dance. And I continued to live in this fantasy world as I had to leave Nepal because my visa was up and came back to Thailand. And I was saying to myself, oh, I'm only going to be here temporarily. I'm going to go back to Nepal. I'm going to show him that I'm committed, that I'm dedicated. Because he was giving me excuses that it's never going to work because I can't stay in Nepal long term. So of course that I was going to act on that and make sure that that wasn't something that was a reality. But it was just an excuse because I said to him, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. He's like, yeah, but even if you do come back, blah, blah, blah. I just wasn't listening. I was so fixated on making it work the way that I wanted it to go. So because I stayed in hoping that he would change his mind, hoping that somehow I could get myself back to Nepal and back into that connection, that experience, and everything would be fine. I kept myself trapped in that space for a lot longer than I needed to. I would not accept the reality of he just didn't want to be with me. It was a short-term thing for him. Whatever was happening, I couldn't accept it. I refused to accept it. I was totally resistant to the reality of the situation. And sometimes that is what keeps us stuck in that space of not being able to let go of someone or relationship, because we are really, really hoping that it's not true. And to accept it means to give up. But that's not what this is all about. When we talk about detaching, when we let someone go, or even when we're in a dating situation, it's about really surrendering and trusting that this is all happening because this is how it's supposed to be. And that is so difficult when you are in a withdrawal phase of meeting someone and you're having such an intense experience. And a lot of studies and science has been done on this infatuated stage that we are in, and when dopamine starts to flood our body. So this is what I was looking into when I came out of it, really, and started the moving on process. I'm like, why did that happen? How did I get into such an intense state that I have never felt before? And never have since. And that is a conscious decision to never feel that since, because it was just crazy looking back at that time. So I'm like, how the hell did that happen? So I started to look into what happens in the brain and the body when we meet someone we fall in love with, aka become obsessed with, infatuated with, and that's it. It's the dopamine, the serotonin, and the oxytocin in our brain that floods our body overwhelms our body, just like a drug does, where we feel intensely high in life. And these chemicals are associated with pleasure, reward, and bonding, which is why we get so attached to this person and why we feel such immense pleasure when we get the text message or the call from them or when we see them in person. We're being flooded with these chemicals. And our body then starts to feel that certain way, and it feels so good that when those chemicals start to go down, start to deplete, again, like a drug, we can get into a withdrawal, and we need a fix. We need something so we can be flooded with those chemicals again, because now we are not, well, used to it, but we're addicted to it. And if we can't get it from this person, we're going to get it from somewhere else. And this is why a lot of people turn to pornography, they turn to alcohol, they turn to exercise, social media, just to get some sort of fix and feel, quote unquote, better in their system. And what these neurotransmitters do is create feelings of excitement, obsession, and intense attraction towards the person you're infatuated with. So what this does is, when we hear the term like rose-tinted glasses, right, we stop seeing the person for who they really are, and we start to see them through the lens of who we want them to be, the vision that we have for this person. And until we can take off those rose-tinted glasses, that is how we're going to view them. We're going to put them on that pedestal. And even though people around us are saying things like, I just don't get it. I don't get how you are so obsessed with this person. Like, if you could just see him from my eyes, like, he is not all that. Or have you thought about that you're actually not compatible? And I did have my friend say this to me in at the time as well. It's like, can you really see yourself being in Nepal with this person? He works as a musician. He works at night. He doesn't get up till midday. How is that something that you can vibe with because you're such a morning person? It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I'm going to make it work. So we see this person as something that is so perfect. And we are down here. They're up there and we are down here. And that's what these chemicals do. And like I said, when we are with someone who's more typically avoidant, they just continue to trigger those chemicals in our body, rather than someone who's more secure and stable, and we have more of a balanced hit, more balanced chemicals in the body rather than these intense highs and lows. So that is something that I needed to understand about what was happening in the brain and the body. And then I started to think even more about what was happening in a psychological sense in terms of why I was so addicted to this person. And I realized that it's a status thing. I started to look back at some of the patterns that I was going through back then. I started to realize that my pattern of men was falling in love with musicians. Really, my two exes before that were musicians, which was crazy for me to realize. I'm like, what is it about musicians? It was because they are on that stage and they are in some sort of a being of passion. They are passionate. They're on stage. Everybody wants a piece of them. Everybody, there's something about someone being on the stage. I don't know if you can resonate with me right now, but that was what was happening with me. I was idealizing them, projecting my desires and fantasies onto them. So I was seeing them as this fantasy, this desire that I had within me on a subconscious level rather than a human being, really. And when they're in their element, it just did something to me internally. And then for that person to then choose me, they're choosing me out of everybody here, out of all the girls that they could have, they're choosing me. Oh my goodness. That has got me hooked. And from that moment, putting them on that pedestal. And it became more about the idea of this person. Like, I am with this person, this musician that everybody wants a piece of, rather than taking the time to understand and get to know who they are as a human being. And I started to create those stories and fantasies in our mind. So it felt like a status thing. And when I think about that person as well, like, what I'm hear about South Asian men is that they are very attracted to white women. Again, a status thing. And I do see this in Asia when we can have someone that is quote unquote a foreigner, a Westerner, that raises your status in your culture, in your environment. So we're always looking to raise our status in some way, whether it's through our work, through our relationship, through our finances. And this is what was happening with me as well. And this can also happen when you're seeking something. And for this connection, I wanted that validation that I meant something to someone who could have their pick of the bunch. I wanted that love. I wanted that excitement. And that person, for who I thought they were, seemed to fulfill those needs just for being a musician, really. So that was that. And then I started to explore a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, what else was happening within me at this moment? And I started to think about the transition that I was in. I was coming out of that long-term relationship, going into a completely different lifestyle of uncertainty. And when I really, really get honest with myself, as much as I was excited to be single and traveling and working online, I saw relationship as an illusion of stability, as something that I needed, because I didn't know how to give myself that feeling or sense of stability and direction and purpose quite yet. So now I've got this person who seemed to be offering me that, or what I thought was offering me that. So I was now kind of detaching from my previous ex, and just like a vacuum cleaner just flying about the air, I just needed to attach to someone else. And that's what we typically do when we kangaroo hop from one relationship to the next. We detach only to reattach to someone else rather than ourselves. So this is what was happening with me. It was the excitement of something new that can give me that familiar sense of safety. And it made them seem just especially captivating because of all of these things that was unfolding. So I started my journey, hadn't quite figured out how to do that for myself. This person came along and I saw it as a way to give me that. And the next reason, as I just mentioned, just got out of that relationship, was looking to fill a void and reattach to something or someone that I feel like I needed, that I had lost. It was a replacement. I just didn't want to be single, no matter how much I tried to really embrace it in that moment. I didn't know how, so I reattached. So to summarize all that, guys, thank you, first of all, for coming on that journey with me. But if you find yourself in your own experiences of being infatuated with someone, being obsessed with someone, maybe you resonate with the journey that I have been on, with the journey that you have been on, or are feeling right now in these moments, just know that infatuation, it's fleeting and it's temporary. And because it's often based on an idealized version of that person, like a vision that you have of that person, rather than a deeper, more sustainable emotional connection. So why it was going on for so long, in my experience, was because he reached that point before me, and I kept myself in that state because I didn't want to come out of it. I refused to come out of it. But in hindsight, let's say it didn't go the way that it did, and I did go back to Nepal, and we, was like, okay, let's be together. Somewhere down the line, I would have come out of that infatuation phase, and so would he, and we would have realized that actually we were not the most compatible. We were completely a reaction of chemistry. But chemistry is fleeting. Chemistry does go away. It's the honeymoon phase, some people call it. And when that starts to die down, we then start to see the reality of it. We start to see the person for who they are. And that's why a lot of relationships end after the honeymoon stage, because they have been a reaction to the chemistry and not have taken compatibility into consideration. And I do believe that we need both in a relationship. We need balanced levels of chemistry and also space and time to evaluate compatibility. So if you find yourself in a space of infatuation, what really helped me when I made that decision to never get back into that emotional state and to yeah, make that conscious choice. I mean, the first one is obvious, is to be able to recognize it, to be able to recognize what infatuation is. Now that I've been through it, I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. I know the signs. I know what to look out for. I can be aware now of if I start to feel myself going back into that space and what I need to do in order to pull myself out of it. And what I needed to do was practice detachment, something that has been completely life changing because of this experience. I really leaned into it, and living in Thailand as well, it was quite easy to do so because it's practiced very regularly in that country, which is so amazing. So I had to really implement what it means to practice and master the art of detachment. What it means for me is really having things in place to take myself out of the bubble, recognizing the signs, being able to pull myself out of the bubble while also caring for the person, communicating with the person what's going on, being vulnerable, being expressive of what I desire, but also calling myself out, applying reality to the situation, challenging my thoughts, being with the anxiety that is coming up for me, and managing my emotions, slowing down the process. So if I start to feel myself being flooded with those chemicals, how can I balance that out? How can I come back to myself? How can I refocus on other things that are going on in my life? How can I challenge the beliefs that are keeping me in that infatuation phase? And really just giving myself space. That's all it is. Giving yourself space and learning those emotional regulation tools to be able to calm your nervous system, because your nervous system is extremely activated in these moments of anxiety. How can I bring it back down so I can be in a space of groundedness, consciousness, awareness, and calmness? And most of all, my biggest lesson from this of how to master the art of detachment and not get into an infatuation phase is to work on my self-esteem. I realized that I was getting infatuated with this person because I didn't believe that I was good enough on a subconscious level, that I was worthy. And now this person is giving me attention, is choosing me. Oh my gosh, it's everything that I couldn't give to myself. Of course, I'm going to chase it. So learning how to be that person for myself, knowing that I am a freaking catch, that I am worthy, that I am lovable, I am enough. I know how to meet my own emotional needs for stability and love and validation. Knowing how to focus on other areas of my life and practice healthy distraction. Know my boundaries, set my boundaries, keep my boundaries, communicate what's happening as well. All of this work had to go into myself. So my next relationship, I could improve, I could be better. And that's where I will leave you guys as well is, don't get me wrong, I am not going to play this game of, and then everything was perfect. I was able to detach completely for the next person. Doesn't work that way, my friends. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect. When I then met someone new, when I met the next guy that I started dating, I did feel those familiar signs. But the difference was that I recognized them. So it didn't get as intense as my previous experience because I didn't allow it to. Remember, I had made that conscious decision. I reminded myself of my promises and my intentions. I recognized it. I called myself out. I pulled myself back. I communicated with him what was happening with me and why I needed to set this boundary. I surrounded myself with people who could help me with this. I had the most incredible support system and friends that could call me out and I could talk to about this. And the more that we talk to people about it, the less intense it is. Because if we keep it hidden and if we wrap it up in shame, we're trying to be the cool girl, and that's the kind of that's the mask that we want to wear and show other people that we're cool, we're chill, but inside we're absolutely kicking off and we're just going nuts. It's going to thrive in that space of shame. So talk about your experiences, talk about how you're feeling. with trusted friends, with a coach, with a therapist, with a community of people that you trust and understand what you're going through and can support you through it and call you out. That was an absolute game changer for me. I couldn't do it alone. So it was not as intense, but it was still present, but it wasn't as intense. I was able to implement all the work that I was already doing on myself and more. In that connection, I was able to learn even more about myself and practice even more of the skills that I wanted to put in place to be able to cultivate that healthy relationship. And I had to manage my attachment to him and the things that he said. I remember him saying, my next guy now, saying like, I think I'm getting obsessed with you. And the old me would have just swam in that statement. Oh my God, I am obsessed with you too. Let's just be obsessed together and just, right off into the sunset. But I had to be like, okay, it feels good to hear that, but I just need to apply some reality to the situation here. We are just, it's beautiful that you express that, but we are just getting to know each other, and I don't want us to fall into that pattern, into that state. He appreciated that, and we were able to navigate it together. But yeah, guys, it was a crazy journey going through that infatuation. And even, like I said, even now, I only have to think back to that time. Just telling this story to you really does take me back to those moments. And when I heard music that played, that takes me back to that time. It was so intense. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret going through it. I'm actually very grateful that I had that experience. I was able to feel all that I did and come out the other end and share this with you guys. But I would never want that for myself again. And to be honest, I wouldn't wish it on you either. So, but if it is happening for you, know that you can navigate it, my friend, my love. You can navigate it. And I want to show you how with this free masterclass that I am doing on Sunday. I would love for you to join me live and really start to understand those tools, those mindset shifts, and what needs to be put in place so you can master the art of detachment when dating and not falling into those infatuation stages. All right, my love, I hope you enjoyed that story as much as I love telling it. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you do have any questions or you have any feedback at all for me, and you just want to let me know how you enjoyed this episode, or just reach out on social media. I would love to hear what you thought, and also share this with a friend if you feel like you have a friend, that friend who is getting completely obsessed with their new crush. They need to hear this story. They need to hear about this experience and how to move through it. Please send it to them. And until next time, my loves, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast. Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.